All right, what's going on, boys and girls? So we're gonna do something a little bit different. I did a video last time criticizing 4 YouTubers that I dislike for their content. Now I'm gonna give a list of a lot more users of their content that I like, because I always get the criticism. Oh, you're just a critic. All you do is criticize. Believe it or not, the people that I criticize are actually a small minority. The ones that I like are a far larger majority. So I'm going to roll into this, and this is actually going to be a positive video. So those looking for negativity, hate to break it to you, you're not going to find it here this time. So the first one we got up is going to be who? It's going to be Big Daddy Linux. Biddle, Rocco, also known as... Rocco has done a tremendous amount of work for the Linux community, turning it from a place that at one point, let's call it less than friendly. Rocco has made it a place with Biddle where users from kind of like all the demographics come together. You have developers, you have programmers, you have back-end engineers, you have everyday users, you have just desktop users, you have Joe Schmo who doesn't really know computing all that well. Like, at the end of the day, it's such a cross-section of technology for Linux that Rocco does a tremendous amount of stuff for the Linux community. And I love being able to join Biddle when I can, Big Daddy Linux Live on Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well worth joining. So next up, I'm going to be plugging somebody who needs no plugging help. Would be Cox Digital, aka Michael Tennell from Cox Digital. Michael provides news with This Week in Linux, reviews, tutorials, not so much. He's got a segment where he tells people how to pronounce some of the god-awful naming conventions that we as Linux users kind of just think are okay and all that jazz. But Michael does great content. Little late on the draw sometimes. Michael will know what I mean by that. But and he's one of the co-hosts for Destination Linux podcast, which is a great podcast in and of itself. I will say that while I like DL is actually not going to be on this list because this is more specifically for Linux YouTubers, not podcasts that are on Linux so much. Next up, we have probably the best one out of, like, as far as size, because somebody had mentioned that, oh, you're not going to like Wendell from Level 1 Techs and Level 1 Linux. Far from the case. I actually like Wendell and a lot of the stuff he does. I find either channel, Level 1 Linux or Level 1 Techs, to be very productive in what they do for technology and Linux and the community, and everything else. I don't always agree with things, but that's okay. You can, like, I don't feel the need to lambast what they do. So that's really all I have to say. They provide good hardware analysis when it comes to stuff working in Linux, like the new Ryzen stuff, and it's done in a video format as opposed to like for Onyx, which is all charts and graphs and everything else. This is like, here's the actual breakdown, and that's what really the Linux community needs. And there's not a lot of it, and the production values are really, really good. I really don't know what else to say about that. Next up, we have another co-host for Destination Linux. And this is someone who I love to troll. I love trolling Ryan, Dusky to no end. But really, at the end of the day, Ryan, don't fall over. But I do respect you, and I do consider you a friend. While we agree and disagree on a lot of things, I do think that you bring a different perspective that not a lot of people are going to bring in. You bring a different viewpoint, a different mentality to how you look at technology, privacy, security, and a lot of that has to do with your experience in a lot of different industries. And Ryan points you in a interesting direction when it comes to technology. And if you want to talk AMD fanboys, for the love of God, Ryan is the biggest. But even a fanboy, I can respect. So next up, we have another co-host for the Destination Linux podcast, Zebedee Boss. Zeb. What can I not say nice about Zeb? Zeb he views himself as the everyday end user. That is the mentality he takes. He enjoys busting things up on ETS, ATS, American Truck Simulator, or European Truck Simulator. And he just enjoys Linux and computing as a whole. And like, you can tell there's passion, there's fun. And yeah, Linux can frustrate him at times. Listen to the last Biddle Europe edition, and he'll have some choice frustrations at times, as we all do. But his commentary, his viewpoint is a very welcome addition. And again, the thing with all these guys is it's going to be, you can disagree, but you can still respect each other. And that's the thing. Like, I don't always agree with everything, say, Michael talks about, or his viewpoints, but there's a difference in viewpoints, and you can always respect the viewpoint even if you don't agree with it. And finding that in the Linux community is really, really, really hard. So when you find that kind of group, and that's really what you're looking for in any type of group, you got to love that kind of group. So next up, we have a much smaller YouTube channel. This one is called Olynyk City. Now, this one's gone by a few different names. I followed them for a while. This is mostly Linux gaming-related content. Totally fine. As far as content, I love it. I've done a few. Again, a lot of these guys you're going to find that I actually don't always agree with, but I respect their opinion. Because they're not a lot of these other guys that like the four that I didn't like, a lot of those type of people talk out of their ass. None of these guys do. They tell you like they see it, whether it's a fact from their. It gives you a factoring viewpoint that might differ from yours. It's them viewing a fact from a different perspective. Sometimes it's devil advocate, which we all do from time to time, and sometimes it's just a different take on a factual thing, and that's okay. And that's what I love about these guys. Olynyk City is gaming, Linux, emulation. I actually really like a lot of his content, a lot of his commentary. Again, we agree to disagree, but mad respect to the content that he produces and the takes that he gives. Next up, not so much a Linux fanboy, but we got Toss. Total OS today. What can I say about Carmine? His viewpoint is very, very end user. There is not a lot to really rag on or complain about. He does weekly shows. His content is very end user focused, and his live streams are great fun. I enjoy them quite frequently. So I would definitely recommend checking out Carmine or Total OS today. And like, I don't know. He is probably he's a fanboy of anything, it's going to be Ubuntu Mate, and that's totally cool. Not for me, but I can respect that. Next up, I'm probably going to butcher this because I'm terrible with naming, and I'm sorry. Come on. Xiomara is actually more of a gaming channel, But he's actually one of these that he's a newer fall into Linux. He's very, very new, actually. But his more pragmatic view and his more pragmatic take on whether to switch to it, to not, as because he's a gamer, I can definitely respect the viewpoint because it's a pragmatic viewpoint. Is Linux ready for gaming? Is one of his videos. And you'd be surprised by the answer he gives, because it's actually one that's done in knowledge and experience and usage. Whereas a lot of these other ones that do those kind of videos don't so much do it. And it really does depend on the user. And that's really his viewpoint. And I cannot recommend, I want to see more Linux related content from Xiomara and his take on be it gaming or whatever, because I can respect that point of view. That pragmatism is something I totally believe in. I'm up and down the pragmatist before I do not believe philosophy should outweigh pragmatism. I believe there is a balance between philosophy and pragmatism. And that is essentially, after watching him go through his Linux travels a little bit, that's basically the approach he's taking, and I have mad respect for that. So I can't recommend his channel enough, especially being such a newer desktop and Linux user. Even, because it's like, oh, it's like 75, 80, 90% of the time, somewhere like that 15% gap of him using Linux as opposed to Windows. And there's just something to respect about that, because it's honest. And now we have the last channel I'm going to recommend. And this is actually a radio show. And I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but this is actually Noah, who is also a co-host on DL, or Destination Linux. So this is like the channel I wanted to promote for him. I love Noah and his take on things because he's so passionate about Linux. If he will fight tooth and nail to make something work with Linux, and it's both it's like this weird balance of like frustrating, annoying, funny, passionate, and you can't help but love it, because even if it might be frustrating and annoying at times, it's like, just go use what isn't going to be a headache. It's the passion to see that, like, damn it, I'm going to make this work, and it's going to work on this. And that's a love of something that you don't see very often. And again, it's something that I have to respect. That is through and through probably the biggest thing out of all this entire list of people. They contribute to the community. They're passionate about what they do. Different viewpoints, different takes, different, across the gamut as far as that. But the one thing they all have in common from my viewpoint is that I respect every single one of these people, because they're not trying to do clickbait. They're not trying to be hyperbolic. They're not trying to just grab your attention. They are legitimate. They are honest, and they are so passionate about what they do. And it's nothing but respect for me for all those reasons that I can't recommend these guys enough. So there you guys go. You guys wanted a list of YouTubers I respect or I like, or however you want to word it. There you go. I want to be clear that I respect, I like, I listen to, I love the content from these people, and that the people that I like far, far outweigh the people that I dislike as far as content. The problem is the people that I dislike are the ones that a majority of YouTube comments, etc., are going to be the jackasses that they like. Here's the thing. I just don't happen to respect their content. I respect these guys on a personal level and the content that they make. That is the big difference. So, comment, rate, subscribe, all the links for Indie Gala, Patreon, all that jazz down below. You guys know what to do. Rate, subscribe, peace out.